How often were you told to never give up hope and that as long as you have hope, everything will be alright? Hope has always been praised as a force for good because it helps us get through hard times and it teaches us to always look for the light at the end of the tunnel. And while the idea itself seems inspiring and uplifting, meant to give us courage whenever we are facing challenges or difficulties, it can also be a dangerous thing. Because hope can not only drive a person mad, it can also blind them to their own reality, preventing them from taking action whenever is required to change their life for the better. Unfortunately, this dark and destructive side of hope is far too often ignored in our society to our own detriment. And I believe this aspect of hope, this dark side of hope, most commonly affects the eternal child, or sometimes called the man child, or uh, a person suffering from the Peter Pan syndrome. And while online there has been a lot of videos ranting and bashing the man child, the purpose of this video is really not to complain about the man child phenomenon, but it's really to um, bring awareness to an issue that seems to be uh, rising and impacting not only those who are affected by this, but also anyone who has to deal with a man child or an eternal child. And although it is often referred as a man child, I believe that we are also seeing a rise of the uh, eternal girl as well, right? Not only men, but women have become more and more affected by this concept of the Peter Pan syndrome. Almost everyone who grew up watching Disney movies might be familiar with Peter Pan, the story of Peter Pan and his sidekick, Tinkerbell, the Lost Boys, and the Darling Children. And Peter Pan is a mischievous boy who loves adventure and never wants to get old. And he lives in Neverland. And the magic of Neverland is that it actually gives you the ability to remain a child forever and never have to face the demands of adulthood. Your whole existence consists of playing and having fun and shirking responsibility. And in this world, villains are cartoonesque and harmless, easily defeated and beaten. And it's a place where you feel powerful and invincible, as if anything is possible. It's a place where the magical dust allows you the gives you the ability to fly without wings. And Peter Pan's famous phrase is, "The moment you doubt whether you can fly, you cease forever to be able to do it." Anyone who nursed a dream, hearing those words, will feel comforted. It sends a message of, I must never stop believing. I must never lose hope. And often we keep believing, we keep dreaming, and we keep waiting. But days turn into months and months turn into years. And before we know it, a decade of our life has gone by and then another. Um, but we're still waiting. We're still believing um, that somehow, someday, our dreams will magically appear in our lives. But then one day you wake up feeling old and achy and feeling discouraged because you feel that your dreams are in shambles. You feel so angry. You feel angry at everyone who has accomplished your dreams. You feel angry at your dreams for letting you down. And most especially, you feel angry at yourself for letting yourself down, for lying to yourself that you still had time, that you still had another opportunity to make it work. I realize far too late that the perfect day doesn't exist. The only perfect day is when you take action. But now you feel too old and you feel too ashamed to even try to pursue your goals because you feel like a fish surrounded by sharks or like an ugly duck surrounded by swans. Your hope tank has finally run empty, and you feel that this hope that you were clinging to with such fervor has actually destroyed you in your dreams. Hope is a powerful weapon, but it can also be a double-edged sword, which often can protect your dreams, but it can also kill them, destroy them in an instant. Because hope without any action is just procrastination and stagnation. And your dreams and your goals mean nothing if you don't take action on them. And while hope itself is good, it should be really taken in little doses, or else we risk losing ourselves in the delusions because we become drunk with those um, delusions and we stop seeing reality. Hope, instead of being a fuel for action, has become our escape or neverland. And instead of working on our dreams, we run away from our dreams. It's important to realize when hope is no longer healthy and has become a drug, a dependency from which we need to be rescued, from which we need to take the courage to overcome this addiction. And it's so hard, it seems almost impossible because giving up hope feels like giving up, right? Accepting defeat and letting our dreams die. After all, Peter Pan said that whoever stops believing loses the ability to fly. And who wants to walk among mere mortals when one dreams of walking among the stars, right? We all have those big dreams of big destinies and uh, living big lives. But we need to understand that if we don't shed this protection of hope, we can never emerge. Like the butterfly who needs to tear down the walls of its cocoon to emerge and to take flight, we need to shed that illusion. Psychologist M. Scott Peck said that um, like most psychological problems stem from avoiding legitimate suffering. That instead of facing the natural pain of growth, people prefer to use distractions like drugs and alcohol, which ultimately leads to even more suffering in the long run. And Peg said that actually accepting life's inherent difficulties and the, addressing it with tools like discipline, responsibility, and commitment leads to a much healthier mental health and our personal growth. To go back to the Disney movie of Peter Pan, we there's a scene where he is seen being frustrated with his shadow as it tries to escape from him, as it tries to detach and escape from him. And I think it's symbolic of the shadow self that we each have, and that is that dark side inside of each of us that we don't want to face and we don't want to acknowledge. But like Peter Pan learns that the shadow is an integral part of him, we also need to learn that this shadow self is an integral part of ourselves. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow work, and it's basically a psychology. It's basically uh, the practice of exploring and integrating the parts of yourself that you have repressed, ignored, or disowned because those aspects of yourself are deemed undesirable or unacceptable by society. But you cannot become whole if you deny parts of yourself. And that's why the first step to healing is really recognizing those sides of yourself and accepting them, integrating them. And actually, the real reason why we have a shadow self is because we all have a persona that we present um, to others because we want to control how we want to be seen and perceived. But the shadow's primal urge is actually to be seen for what it truly is, right? but we are too ashamed to admit it because, after all, show our who wants to show their vulnerabilities and fears? But also, how can you learn to be strong if you don't learn how to be vulnerable and authentic? For the eternal child who clings to this idealized life and this perfect future, hope has become an almost like a second skin, um, like a garment wearing tin that no longer keeps them warm, but has become like a shroud that desperately tries to preserve that infantile fantasy that life will magically become. The refusal to see our reality for what it is keeps us stagnating, keeps us stuck in a vicious cycle of procrastination, delaying, um, and actually never taking action, which only leads to more fears, more uncertainty, and more doubts. Often, people who struggle with the eternal child syndrome, they fear to commit to one path. They fear to commit to one relationship or one career because it feels like abandoning all the other possibilities and all their grand fantasies and all their big dreams. Um, and yet, at the same time, there's also this soul paralyzing fear that time is ticking by and your life is slipping by, and you watch it run away from you like a current you have no control over. And at the same time, accepting and at the same time letting go of hope, of the comforting dreams, seems like a capitulation. The eternal child finds comfort in the ideal life, in the fantasy land, because there is no hardships and there's no struggles. And really, how does one face reality? How does one step into the battlefield of life without a shield or a weapon, completely bare and at the mercy of life's blows? Um, I think the first step to healing is really acknowledging and accepting that life is actually hard and that there is no avoiding the hard blows. There is no escaping from the pain, the disappointments, the setbacks, and that the only way forward, and that the only way is forward, facing life heads on, facing life straight in the eyes, afraid, flinching, trembling, scared, but still standing, still fighting, still trying, still defying. Because living truly is really to stand up for something that is meaningful to you and fighting for something that means something to you. It's important that we free ourselves from the delusion that our life will magically transform without us doing any work. That tomorrow we're gonna wake up in our dream life with doing our dream job, living in a dream house, having our dream partner by our side. These all take efforts, and these all require commitment and dedication. Another thing that we need to realize is that we need to stop waiting for permission or waiting for someone to tell us that we're worthy of our goals. We need to take action even before we feel ready. We need to step into the arena even if we feel like we might lose, because that defeat, that failure is 100 times more valuable than you being paralyzed in a never ending cycle of preparation. Hope has two sides, right? One that is life giving and one that is very destructive. And that's why it's important to choose hope as a fuel for your dreams. It's important to use hope whenever we are faced with setbacks or obstacles, or we just, had a defeat. Whenever we made mistakes, whenever we had failures, in those moments, hope becomes essential, and hope keeps us going forward, keeps us persevering, because it teaches us that the failure was an experience, that the mistake was actually a learning lesson, right? And that you will only be learning and growing and getting and becoming better because of it. And that's a real win, because everything that you learn through the trials and errors, you can never understand them until you have lived them. We all want to get to our dream goal or desired outcome, and get to the finish line, uh, and taste victory. But we really want to get there without the struggles along the way, because will the victory taste as sweet if we didn't go through the hardships? The eternal child sees the demands of adulthood as constraints and limitations. Uh, the duty to have to commit to one path, or make a decision, can seem off-putting. But actually, um, I think real freedom is found in the commitment to one goal or one path. It's in the decision to assume duty, your duties and your obligations. And by actually committing to your goals, committing to a course of action, it opens even more possibilities and opportunities, something that untethered and ungrounded freedom cannot offer you, right? Because you didn't put the work. The curated life we see on social media has made us blind to the hard work that is required whenever we want to achieve any goal, and the struggles that come along the way. And that's why, as soon as we are met with discomfort or setbacks, we tend to abandon and move on to something else, not realizing that we need to persevere through the hard parts, and you know that the routine of dedication and commitment, it can be quite boring. But instead, what we do is we often have a shiny object syndrome, and we end up chasing new ideas that seem even more exciting. But it's just an excuse at the end of the day, because what we end up doing is we end up procrastinating, not making progress, not putting the effort, not putting the work into what is actually needed. But then we end up losing so much time, so many days wasted, so many opportunities gone, and then we feel regret over the lost time and the foregone opportunities, and we feel better that we let ourselves down. Nietzsche said that the worst of evils is hope, because it prolongs the torments of men. And he's not saying that hope is evil in itself. It's basically that hope without grounding, without the efforts, can keep us in endless suffering, because we remain attached to our imagination and imagined future, instead of actually working on our present and taking decisions and actions in our present. The eternal child is often lost in a dreamland, in a fantasy land, where they feel that relationships don't need to be worked on, because there's a right one. There's someone perfect existing for them, and they're going to appear tomorrow. That careers don't need to be built, because they have a calling, and that calling is gonna come tomorrow. That life doesn't need to be lived now, because their perfect life is going to come tomorrow. but then that tomorrow never comes, right? Because at the end of the day, in this case, that hope for a better life only becomes a denial, and it keeps us in a perpetual state of uh, inaction and paralysis. Does this mean that we must abandon hope entirely? No. Um, it's really just very important that we make the distinction when hope becomes a delusion, or hope is actually a fuel for actions that pushes us to try more, to do more, to do better. So the the writer who wants to write a book doesn't wait for the right moment, for the inspiration to strike. They just sit down at their desk and they start writing, and hopefully the inspiration is gonna come. And even if it doesn't, they still have to persevere. And maybe it's not gonna come today, it's not gonna come tomorrow, but then on the third day, the magic of hard work is gonna pay off, and they'll see their story come alive. Maturity doesn't mean giving up hope and giving up wonder. It just means that you realize that we accept our imperfections, we accept that we're flawed, and uh, n- we we are willing to fail and fall short. We accept that not everything is gonna turn out the way we want it. Um, but the most important thing is that we tried and we gave it our best, and that we had agency in our lives, that we took control of our lives and our decisions. And that is the most important thing. That is what life is about: trying, failing, trying again, failing again, trying again, learning how to do it better. And um, at the end of the day, the whole point of life is becoming. It's not this perfect destination or this perfect outcome. It's what you have acquired, what you have learned, and what you have become as you were stumbling and you were falling, and you got up again and again. Okay. Thank you for listening and for staying until the end. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe if you feel like doing so, and please share it with whoever might want to hear it. And please share in the comments if you are currently struggling with the same paralysis of inaction, or um, if you have found a way to overcome it. So, wishing you a wonderful day or evening wherever you are, and please stay safe, stay strong, and always live life to the best of your abilities. Thank you.